Well, greetings, my imagination connoisseurs. I apologize for being late. I had a hungry cat jump on my keyboard at the last minute. I got Gilbert barking away. It's been an animal house over here tonight, so I apologize for being late. My cat, when she wants to be fed, jumps right on my keyboard, and usually she steps on buttons. There's nothing I can do. I have to feed her. Skippy John Jones, when she wants something, she knows how to get it. Well, anyway, good evening, my imagination connoisseurs, and welcome to all of you. These members here right now, the Post-Geek Singularity. Great to see you all here tonight. Sorry, I was working with Gabe Bologna, the director of Tango Shalom today. We're dropping in some new music tracks, which is great fun because I'm going to turn the entire film over to the sound design team on Friday. It's been a while to get there, but it's all being turned over. The film's also with the colorists. So after like 3 years, I've given it aside. I've given it to somebody else. I've tossed it aside. Actually, not tossed. Given it to very capable people, artists all, and I can't wait to see what they do. One of the most gratifying points, or one of the most gratifying things in the process of making motion pictures, is to watch other talented artists take over and add their own talents to the mix. I think it's great. So before I get into the topic at hand that I wanted to discuss, I, of course, well, you don't know, of course, but I have another letter from Willow Yang. Now, many of you know, a couple days ago, I read her letter. I titled my chat that "You'll Believe a Man Could Cry," a play on Superman, the movie's ad line, "You'll believe a man can fly." But her letter touched me, and it touched a lot of you. I've received enormous amounts of response. I mean, it's been well, I can't say unprecedented, but as far as this 3-month-old these 3-month-old live chats go, Willow's letter got by far the most response of anything that I've talked about. So she finally wrote me back in, and I wanted to read what she has to say. So this is from, once again, Willow Yang. Greetings, Rob. I will try and keep this relatively short. I just want to express my gratitude to everyone in this wonderful community, yourself included, of course. I'm not an artist. I can't draw if my life depended on it. Language has always been the medium through which I've expressed my creativity. I've always had a great love for English. I was, ashamedly, too lazy to learn Chinese characters, much to my parents' chagrin. I've always been fascinated by the way words can be arranged and manipulated to convey and invoke imagery and emotion. Yet, when I wrote my letter to you, I could have never anticipated the way that you and so many other people had responded to it. I'm astonished and overwhelmed by the outpouring of love and support from everyone. I want to thank every single person in this incredible Post-Geek Singularity community. You have all been nothing but kind and welcoming and supportive. It's during times like this when I wish that I'm a better writer so that I can properly convey my gratitude to all of you. Phrases like, "You really made my day," just doesn't do justice to how much all of your kindness and love have meant to me. If you're curious, I've always wanted to write a series of wuxia novels set in the not too distant future. I guess the premise is somewhat similar to Into the Badlands, but more lighthearted and with a little more technology available. I certainly don't condone gun violence in real life, but I do love me some fictional gun foo. There will also be fantastical elements, including demons, dragons, and other creatures inspired from Chinese folklore. I've outlined the plot for the first book that I want to work on. Unfortunately, I'm currently writing at the pace that George R.R. Martin seems to be with The Winds of Winter, but with only a fraction of his talent and skill. It might be years before I'm able to create something that I'd be proud to share with the rest of the world. I will persevere, however, and keep on bettering myself and my writing, knowing that I have the support of this great community behind me. I feel so fortunate to be surrounded by so many wonderful people from all around the world. We may have come from different generations, countries, and walks of life, but we're all humans and we're all fans and we're all united by what we love. There may be much pain and hatred and horrors happening on our planet right now, but I will always believe in the good in humanity because I've seen it right here. Yours sincerely, Willow. You know, I can't get enough of Willow Yang's writing. I really can't. And you know, if there was ever any doubt in my mind about why I should be doing these chats, well, letters like this take all that doubt away. And I also now wanted to read another letter from Vesna, because Vesna, of course, she's usually here in the mornings because she lives in Bosnia and she hasn't been here for these night chats, but she sent me a letter also yesterday, and I figured that you'd get a kick out of it. Because it's also, you know, I don't have many, according to my YouTube analytics, the female viewership of my live streams is about 1.5%, which I don't know what that says about me. But anyway, let me read Vesna's letter. Dear Robert, even I don't always watch your show live because, you see, I still need to sleep from time to time, but I want you to know that I surely watch every single episode the day after. Because of that, I couldn't participate in some of the latest shows, but I still have a need to say a couple of words. Well, more than a couple, you know me. First, to Willow. Girl, you are a hero and a warrior, and you are beautiful. Don't let anyone to say to you otherwise. Boys are stupid. Sorry, guys, but you are. But luckily, those boys grow up, and they realize that a true beauty of a woman is not on her face or figure, but beyond that. It lies in her wisdom, soul, and emotions, and you are full of those. So, Willow, heads up, because the most expensive perfumes are kept in small bottles. And also the deadliest poisons. But that's for another topic. You are every woman on the planet. None of us are perfect. We're not supermodels. So what? Maybe we have something that they don't have. Boys keep a poster of a supermodel on the wall, but men keep real women by their side. Second, I want to say something to you, Robert. Don't you dare to take the responsibility. Oh no, no way, dear sir. You are responsible for bringing all these people together, and I congratulate you for that. Also, I have to be a little biased, especially thank you for bringing more women into the community. Oh boy, this sounds like a cult. But you know what? I don't care. Our religion is sci-fi, fantasy, and all of those geeky things, and treating people with respect. So, Robert, the 100th episode is not too far away. I can't believe this is number 76, by the way. As a matter of fact, it will be only 5 days before Endgame. So I think that you, with the help from all of us, should do something special on that occasion. Oh man, I've just realized I started to count the time before Endgame and after Endgame. Denise, you're not the only addict here. There are worse cases than you. Before I end this letter, I really want to apologize to all men out there if I offended them. I'm sorry I was a little mean to you, but I still like you and respect you. You know that, right? Sorry, Robert. I really tried to keep this letter short, but I'm so bad in doing that. Respectfully yours, Vesna. So clearly, the Willow Yang letter continues to resonate with people, and I think I love it. I just think it's great, and it really, you know, it means a lot to me. So thanks for all that, and yeah, I think it's great. So thank you for that. And now, again, I keep getting more and more and more letters from people. I can't keep up. I've been so busy, of course, working on the movie. I've been in and out of my house. It's been crazy all over the city, but it's been gratifying. But somebody wrote an email to me and asked what I thought of Jordan Peele's comments today that were reported, or I guess they were yesterday, reported in the Hollywood Reporter. And I had not read them. And I'm a huge fan of Jordan Peele, all the way back to Key and Peele, where I sort of first discovered him. And I'm really excited because the Twilight Zone remake that he is shepherding into existence debuts, I think, Monday. I think it would be April 1st. I don't know if you can hear Gilbert. He's not stopped barking since the show has started. But I'm a big fan of his. And I'm a big fan of, obviously, I was a huge fan of Get Out. I really liked to see him take home that Oscar for writing Get Out. And what's really interesting is that I think that, Get Out was a Blumhouse film, and Blumhouse really has this model that they pioneered where a $5 million movie, they allow filmmakers. I mean, M. Night Shyamalan came back and he did The Visit for $5 million. Jordan Peele made Get Out for $5 million. And what that allows Blumhouse to do is it gives new filmmakers. I mean, Jordan Peele hadn't directed a feature. They made a lot of Key and Peele shorts, which were actually really well directed and very well done. So he certainly had chops learning how to tell a story visually, and I thought Get Out was wonderful. I really did, and it was great to see an emerging new talent. But apparently, I got a few emails about this some of the comments that he made in a Hollywood Reporter article, and what did I think of them? And I'm like, look, Jordan Peele's coming off his sophomore effort, obviously Us, which I have not seen yet. Us opened to great acclaim. It also made a hell of a lot of money. The budget was reportedly $20 million. That's what Blumhouse does. You have one success, and it buys you a higher tier of success, which is exactly how the entertainment business should work. Jordan Peele was smart. He didn't take some franchise property. They offered him $150 million to direct something that he didn't have any control over. He came up with something, again, that was deeply personal to him. I assume, again, I haven't seen it, but I really appreciate what he's doing in terms of managing his filmmaking career. I mean, Blumhouse is allowing filmmakers to sort of spread their wings the way indie cinema, the way I grew up watching David Cronenberg or John Carpenter or Joe Dante or John Landis. I mean, these filmmakers that were making their bones in their late 70s and early 80s were earning their success. They would make an indie hit, and they would make another film. They weren't being offered franchise properties by the studios. They would continue to make independent films that were sort of in their wheelhouse. And Blumhouse is allowing filmmakers, not just Jordan Peele, but other filmmakers to do that. And I think it's an incredible model. I mean, what it does is it puts the onus on the filmmakers. Sure, Blumhouse has to choose the filmmakers to work with. But when a guy like Jordan Peele, who already had some great credibility, but certainly not as a horror director, and yet they see something in him, they gave him a shot. He kept his budget down, and when they get a film of Get Out's quality, then they're allowed to move further. And Jordan Peele was very smart in making a film that, while it was a tremendous leap going from a $5 million to a $20 million budget, but when you're releasing a film through Universal, the risk is mitigated. And of course, it was bared out by a $70 million opening weekend. The film was already in profit after its first 3 days of release. And that is great business. The business of Hollywood is great. The business that they're doing over at Blumhouse is great. That's the way to make independent movies. That's the way to make horror. Horror is bankable. And we're getting from Jordan Peele really unique, interesting visions. And while I get a little tired of the ghost stories, I mean, we're getting a lot of them. James Wan, the master of the jump scare, whether it's the Conjuring universe, there's another Annabelle movie coming down, which I don't mind. I mean, I loved Annabelle Creation, so that's great to see. But I really like the sort of the new vision, something that we've never seen before in Get Out, and I assume Us. Which I, again, can't wait to see. I just haven't been able to see it because I've been so busy. But I wanted to know what the deal was. Why were people writing to me about Jordan Peele, about what he said? Apparently they were incensed. So I went and sought out this Jordan Peele interview that he did on the occasion of Us being released with the Hollywood Reporter. And it's interesting. So he was discussing a couple of things. And again, I found this very interesting, hearing about his process and how he thought when he was writing the script. And, he said this, apparently he was speaking at the Upright Citizens Brigade, or UCB, which is a comedy theater here in LA, but they hold lectures and there's a lot of stuff. It's a theater, and it's a great place to go. I've seen a lot of shows there. It's on Franklin Avenue. And he said this when he was writing the script for Get Out. Jordan Peele says this. He says, every 2 weeks I'd go, what the fuck am I doing? I'm writing a movie where a black man is victimized and all the white people are evil, and I'm trying to get the audience to have fun. But if you could make that fun, that's what kept bringing me back. And then he goes on to say, because of the great success of Get Out and the Academy Award, he suddenly had, well, maybe not carte blanche, but he certainly had a lot of credibility. And of course, Jason Blum was eager to get his next movie on the fast track, which they did, and they made Us. Now, here's where it became controversial. Apparently, the people that wrote me seemed sort of incensed. And let me read to you what Jordan Peele says. The way I look at it, I get to cast Black people in my movies. I feel fortunate to be in this position where I can say to Universal, I want to make a $20 million horror movie with a Black family. And they say, yes. I don't see myself casting a white dude as the lead in my movie. Not that I don't like white dudes, but I've seen that movie. It really is one of the best, greatest pieces of this story, is feeling like we're in this time. Gilbert, feeling like, what? Go get him. Go get him. But I've seen that movie. It really is one of the best, greatest pieces of this story, is feeling like we're in this time. A renaissance has happened and proved the myths about representation in the industry are false. Now, this is the thing. I guess I'm supposed to be incensed that Gilbert, what are you doing, buddy? Charlie, the cat from next door, sometimes comes in our back door, and Gilbert likes to bark at Charlie. But anyway, what I was going to say, not to ruin my track of thought here. So, as I have always said, one of the great things about more diversity with people in front of and behind the camera is that we're just going to get more stories we haven't heard yet. And was I angry? Does it bother me that Jordan Peele won't cast a white male lead in a movie? He said he wouldn't do that. No, like Jordan Peele said, he's seen that movie. We've all seen that movie. I've been watching those movies my entire life. I mean, I think, first of all, watching a story about a Black family, a functioning Black nuclear family, 2 kids, husband and wife, they love each other, mom and dad. That's something that is new. I mean, it's maybe it's not new, but we don't see it. We don't see that as the basis of a horror film. And in my mind, that's great. I mean, how many times have I seen movies about white families? It doesn't bother me. I don't think it should bother anybody else that we're watching a story about a Black family, or that Jordan Peele says, well, I don't want to cast a white dude because I've seen that movie. First of all, Jordan Peele is not a white dude himself. I want to know what his unique perspective on the world is. I think the films that he is going to make are going to be movies that inherently are going to have concepts and ideas and a perspective that's new and fresh, which makes it awesome. So I just don't understand. I mean, I know that actually I got 3 emails about this today, and they weren't. It was sort of a strange thing, because every time I'm on these chats, and I'm always talking about what diversity means for us as imagination connoisseurs, as people who get to consume these kinds of stories. And my whole deal is that anytime we can get a new filmmaking voice that brings something to the table that we haven't heard, we all win. Now, of course, those voices have to be bankable. At the end of the day, they're spending millions. I mean, 20 million. Us costs $20 million. That is not an insubstantial amount of pocket change. It's 4 times what Get Out cost. And I think that you have to be responsible when you're spending that kind of money. If you're not responsible, you don't get another at bat. And Jordan Peele is very shrewdly building his career. He's building his brand. And a lot of filmmakers have that sophomore slump. They don't get to make the film they wanted to make, or it didn't turn out quite as well as they would have hoped. But this film opened, it's the 3rd highest horror opening ever, behind It, Part 1, and Blumhouse's own Halloween, the Halloween, the sequel to the original that came out last year. And they now strike gold with Jordan Peele a second time with a $70 million opening with us. I think this is fantastic. I don't want Jordan Peele to make movies with more white protagonists, some white dude in the lead. I don't want that because, like he said, I've seen that perspective. I've seen that movie before. You know, Jordan Peele is a black man. He's grown up black. There aren't enough, in my mind, black filmmakers. I know my good friend Darren Scott and Rusty Cundiff, they work together. They've got Tales from the Hood 2 on Netflix now. You should check it out. But the more perspectives that we get from different kinds of people, I think the better off we are as imagination connoisseurs. You know, I think it's Indonesia. There's some Indonesian devil possession movie that I read about once. It's not Satan Got Behind Me. It's not that, but I can't wait to see it. I want to see an Indonesian devil possession take over the family movie. I forget what it's called, but it's new. It's been playing the festivals, but it hasn't opened here yet. But I can't wait to see it. I mean, The Raid, my beloved The Raid, or as I like to say, The Rad, and The Rad 2, even radder, Indonesian martial arts films. How great was it to see those? You know, you got a expat Brit making that movie in Indonesia. I mean, that's some craziness. The more different kinds of voices and stories that we get to see, and that are also profitable for the studios. I mean, they're not making movies. Hollywood is not a charity case. And like I've said, it ain't show friends, it's show business. And if you're not making any money, you're not going to get to make another movie. I certainly found that out the hard way. I was about 10 years too early with my William Shatner film, and I haven't directed since. I haven't directed another feature, I should say. But I think it's great that we are getting these kinds of voices. And it's not threatening to me in the least. I mean, bring it on. And I think no one else should be threatened by it either. Jordan Peele is doing his own thing. And if anything, you should take away from this that you all should be doing your own thing. You should, as I learned when I was a professional story analyst, which is really just a different way of saying reader. I read scripts for a living for a number of years in the mid-90s, and it was the most thankless, horrific job ever. But what I learned is that everyone's trying to write another version of the most successful genre at the time. For instance, the buddy cop movie, because of the success of Lethal Weapon and Lethal Weapon 2, and then even Lethal Weapon 3, I read every different permutation of the buddy cop film. And it was just interminable. You'd read these scripts and you're like, I get it. You saw Lethal Weapon, it made money, and you want to rip it off. And it was so depressing. And no one's going to buy your script if you're going to tell if you're going to do a bargain basement or riff on something that's come before. I mean, sure, maybe the low budget film arena, Escape from New York, becomes 1990, the Bronx Warriors, or whatever the hell that Italian ripoff was. But that was a whole different thing. But if you want to tell stories, the best way to tell stories is to tell original stories that you believe in. And I honestly believe that. And seeing Jordan Peele make the transition from doing sketch comedy to becoming a new voice in horror, how great is that? I mean, it's the greatest thing ever. And it should be lauded. And good on Jason Blum for taking a risk on Jordan Peele, and great on him for having a real vision and bringing it to the screen and being fearless and making Get Out. And what happened? He won the Academy Award for original screenplay, and richly deserved. And now he just made another $70 million for his next horror film that comes out a year later. I hope that Jordan Peele becomes a man that we can expect all kinds of different visions from, and I want to see his movies once a year. We're all the better for it. And that's just what I was thinking about today. That's because people were writing in, and it's funny because people are always trying to, maybe not trying to get my goat, but I would hope that I come off as genuine in what it is I'm really interested in. And what I'm really interested in is seeing great movies and reading great books and buying great comics and all kinds of things like that. I just want to see stuff that's great. And I don't care who brings it to me. I'll look at anything. Like, you know, they're making I think it's either a film or a TV series of Mouse Guard. Now, if you guys don't know what Mouse Guard is, it's it's beautiful comic. And it was not usually something that was in my wheelhouse, but I picked it up. I want to say, God, it's like 15 years ago? It might even be longer, maybe not that long, but it seems like it was a long time ago, 15 or 20 years. If you haven't picked up the Mouse Guard comic, pick it up. And I'm really excited for the show. And I'm like, yeah, man, that's going to be another great piece of entertainment. Again, I can't believe that we're getting this stuff. We live in a world where, because there's so much content being made and everybody has such an appetite, I mean, between Deadly Class and the Umbrella Academy and now Mouse Guard and everything that's getting Dune, the stuff that's getting made right now, we imagination connoisseurs are only in for a glutton of we're getting just so many riches, and I'm very excited about that. So anyway, that's all I had to talk about tonight. I got those letters, and I will start looking at what do people have. What do you got for me tonight, kids? What's here? Wicked Pixelated. Akira Comics, call me after the show. Yes, I've owed this fine gentleman, these Akira Comics for the last 2 years. And he's going to get them, and I will call you. Willow Yang is here again. Willow says, the cell cultures I grow aren't really that cool to look at. If you're interested, though, I can try making a short slideshow of some of my lab work. Willow Yang is not just a great writer and a geek, but she's also a molecular biologist, and she's 4 years into her PhD. So she's going to be a doctor. Willow is going to be a doctor, not just a good writer, and not just somebody who tears and tugs at our heartstrings. And I would like to see that. Look, as I said, I'm going to have a gallery on my website, on the Burnettwork.net. I'm going to create an imagination connoisseur gallery. Some of you have been sending me pictures of your collections and your action figures. Keep sending them to me, because I'm going to make a gallery of whatever you, the imagination connoisseurs, and you, the members of the Post-Geek Singularity community, whatever you send me, because I want to showcase it all, because it's cool. And so why wouldn't I want to do that? Dieter Bastian's here. Dieter Bastian says, greetings from Germany, Rob. Did Ed 209 kill Pearl? For those of you who don't know, I'm constantly trying to change up stuff going on here. And I've just been, trying to organize stuff a little bit more. So as everyone, my desk is a complete, you can't really see, but below here, it's a complete disaster. So I've been trying to change it up here. As you can see, Pearl is right up there. There's Pearl. She has a nice perch. She's right next to the Millennium Falcon, which is right next to a Rescue Eagle transporter, a 1/48 scale Eagle transporter, next to the refit Enterprise. So Ed 209, I was looking for a place for old Ed here. I don't know. This is actually the second Hot Toys Ed 209. I had the first Hot Toys Ed 209, but famously, if you know about that, this rubber always separated. This is the second Ed 209 they made. I don't know. Was it 5 years ago? I don't know how long ago it's been, but it's great. I love this Ed 209. I was just looking to find out where I should put it. I don't quite know. And you can see slowly filling out my Hot Toys. I haven't finished that. There's Bane. Hot Toys Bane is up there. I can't decide what I'm going to do. On this, there's another shelf you can't see with all of the Avengers and the Guardians of the Galaxy. And I'm sort of migrating everything over there. But yes, there's always stuff changing here. And you're going to see even more changes soon. So that's funny. I don't think Ed 209 could kill Pearl. Maybe she could, actually. By the way, I just want to point out Pleasant Valley Picker Canada is here. I've been saying Pleasant Valley Picker California, but it was pointed out to me that it's not. Pleasant Valley Picker Canada's here, who's always here. Thank you for being here, Pleasant Valley Picker Canada. He says, multiculturalism is a strength of Canada. Sure, there can be challenges still. Overall, folks get along. Immigrants open businesses, work hard, pay taxes, and contribute and enrich Canada. Look, you won't get any argument there for me. I mean, the United States is, in fact, a nation of immigrants. I don't understand. I've lived in LA for 30 years, and most of the people, especially our brothers and sisters to the south of us, whether it's Mexico, whether it's Central or South America, I'd say most of the people that I've met over the last 30 years, immigrants in Los Angeles, have been great, hardworking people. I've had great experiences. I've seldom had a bad one. For every bad experience anybody can point to that was perpetrated by an immigrant, I'll show you 10 United States citizens that have also done equally bad things. So I'm a fan of people, as I tell you at the end of every broadcast. Every person you meet has a story to tell you haven't heard yet, and every person you meet knows how to cook something you probably haven't eaten yet. And that's the key. We need to reframe our discussion about immigration and turn it into a meal thing. Like if we sit down with all the different immigrants that come to this country, we should have just have meals with people. And we all love, it's so funny, we all love foreign cuisine. Like in Los Angeles, you can go on one street, you can go from an Italian restaurant to an Ethiopian restaurant to an Indian restaurant. It's great. And everybody has good food to eat. That's why I look at it. We should base our immigration by who cooks the best meals. A Magic Case says, as a Trekker, not a hardcore Trekkie, I remember I was trying so hard to like Discovery, yet couldn't finish the first half season last year. Yeah, it's tough. It's even tougher now. But they say in the next 4 episodes, they're going to make Discovery fit right in with canon, which doesn't give me a whole lot of hope. I could be wrong. Hope springs eternal, doesn't it? Let's see. Oh, somebody asked me, Daniel Head asks, why do you keep collaborating with Midnight's Edge? First of all, I like the people at Midnight's Edge. I mean, I've enjoyed speaking with them. Do I agree with everything they say? No. But we certainly share the same views on Star Trek, what makes Star Trek good. So I enjoy having conversations with them. Now, it's, what's interesting is that I can enjoy having conversations with everybody over at Midnight's Edge, but I don't have to agree. I don't agree with some of the things that they've espoused about Captain Marvel, but I can find a meeting of the minds with them over Star Trek. And I've had nothing but fun talking with those guys, and I have great respect for their videos. They put a lot of work into their channel. And while I don't necessarily agree with everything they say, I certainly respect them as creators and as fellow fans that happen to have a different, sometimes a different viewpoint than I do. But I like them, and that's why I collaborate with them. And when they ask me to go on, I'm always flattered when somebody asks me to go and do something. And why not? If I can bring my own perspective, look, they're putting me on and they're putting me on their channel, and they know that I don't agree with them 100% of the time. And I think there's some kind of a mutual respect going on. And it's just so weird to me that, you go onto somebody's channel and suddenly you're branded like you're being supportive of them. But look, I'm interested in the free flow of ideas. That's what I like. And I've always been treated with respect on the Midnight's Edge channel. And I think that I would like to do that. I love watching people that I don't necessarily agree with. Like I've told people before, I go to the Drudge Report every day, which is the opposite side of the aisle from where I'm usually at. Because just to see where those ideas are coming from, what is their take on they're really an aggregator, but it's mostly right wing or sometimes far right stuff or sensationalism masquerading as journalism. But I find it interesting. So I go there to see what's up. Then I go to look at the BBC. Then I go look at CNN. Then I go look at Israeli news. So I'm looking at things all over the world all the time. I try to stay out of an echo chamber because there's always something interesting going on somewhere that I want to see. And it's called Quillette, which I never thought of it. I guess people think of it as a far right or a right wing. Maybe I don't know, but they frequently have articles that I find really interesting. And I posted one, and somebody got mad at me, like, "How can you post an article?" I'm like, I don't think I'm by posting an article that I find on Quillette, it's not an endorsement of every single article that they publish. I just found whatever particular article that I retweeted or put on my Facebook page, I found that article interesting. And there was something that I found interesting in that particular article. And I wish, we had a lot of, like, I don't tar and feather people with the same, just because somebody says one thing, if they have recurring, if they're douchebags and they engage in constant douchebaggery online, it's obvious and you can see that. But there's a lot of people that are thoughtful online that might have a different viewpoint than I do, but I still like to hear what they have to say because I learn from them. So I think the Midnight's Edge guys and girls I like I like them as people, and I, enjoy interacting with them. But it's a fair question, by the way. It is a fair question because, if there's something that you disagree with, or a channel you don't like, and you like my channel, and then you see me on a channel of people that you disagree with or don't like, it's absolutely a fair question to ask me, why are you on that channel? And I appreciate you asking me. And I think that's okay. And it doesn't offend me that you asked me, and it doesn't. I think it's great that you asked. And one of the things that I want this channel to always be is a place where we can have that free flow of ideas, and they're not quashed. But I also want people to, not go off. There's a lot of trolls have jumped in here and said some pretty. It's always funny to me when a troll will jump in near the end of a conversation and say something completely outlandish that has nothing to do with the conversation at hand. I'm like, why are you doing that? What is it you're trying to prove? I don't know. Topher Rocks is here. Topher Rock says, you're the director of the first MCU X-Men. Well, please. Who's on your team and who's the villain? I would love to see the Sentinels again, more true to the 90s cartoon. That's a tough one, because if I did the first MCU movie, it would have to be, I think, by definition, an origin story. And I think that if you're going to bring the X-Men into the MCU, there's got to be a reason why we haven't seen them up until now. And it would be interesting to make a film about the emergence of mutants. I know Apocalypse is 1,000 years old, but the same way that the MCU has tailored some of their more famous stories, they've used, like Civil War was not exactly like Civil War in the comics, but the essence of what Civil War was certainly inherent in the movie. I think if I were tasked to do an X-Men movie, I would show the emergence of mutant kind. Kind of like the way First Class introduced us to Mystique and Charles Xavier. I mean, maybe the first X-Men movie might be something along those lines where maybe post-snap or something, mutants suddenly are emergent. I don't know, like in Umbrella Academy, these women gave birth to 40 some odd miraculous births in one day. Maybe not in one day, but over the course of you could go back into the 90s or something and make it a recent thing. So the emergence of mutants, because that way you could involve other Marvel characters, other superhero characters, perhaps the Avengers, who are being asked to manage this emerging mutant threat. And you play it that way, and then it becomes, instead of being, you play the old, can't you just try not being a mutant trope? You could really turn it into more of maybe Homo superior is threatening to Homo sapiens, but in a different kind of a way. Like maybe it's seen as an extinction level event. Actually, it's been seen like that a lot in the X-Men comics. But put a different spin on it, maybe a modern spin on it. But I don't know if you could do Magneto in that scenario, because you'd have to come up with some other kind of villain. I don't know. It's a tough one. I'd have to. This is a long question. I need to ponder this. I got to get back to this, but that's a good question. I don't know. I'd have to think about that. I don't quite know how I would do that. Matt Limpicki says, I have to be honest. When he said that, it really did bother me, but I can see where you're coming from, Robert. But I honestly thought that was really hateful, what he said about white people. See, but once again, I understand where you're coming from, Robert. See, I don't see that at all. I don't see. It's the same way that I would have a heart. Look at it this way: if I was tasked to make a film about, I don't know, a woman who lost a child and was going through horrible depression, and it would be hard for me. I don't think I would want to make that film, because I don't have enough insight, first of all, into what it's like to first have a child, to carry a child to term and give birth, and then to lose a child. So if I was tasked to make a movie like that, I don't know if I could do it. I don't think I could do justice to that subject matter. And I don't see that Jordan Peele as a black man in America, let's face it, all right? As I've said before, there has never been true equality in this country. Any black American can tell you that. I have never once thought twice. Walking into a convenience store, I've driven from LA to Seattle countless times. I usually drive all night long. If I roll into a convenience store at 2 o'clock in the morning, I just go in. Or if I go into a restaurant, no one pays any attention to me. I've never been looked at twice. That isn't true of Black Americans. Regardless of what you may think, and I believe in complete equality, but the fact is, Black America represents what? Not quite 14% of the population in the United States. There are places in this country that a Black man or a Black woman can't walk in and feel safe or feel not glared at. I mean, I can't even know what that's like. I have no idea. I have no concept of it. I've been lucky and privileged enough I was born into an upper middle class. Oh, actually, I was adopted by an upper middle class Jewish family. I was raised well. My parents were really nice. And so there's a lot of the world that I don't even presume to know about. So when Jordan Peele says he's seen countless movies with white protagonists, and he, as a Black man, has much more insight into a Black family. And it makes sense to me that he would want to make movies about Black people because he has insight into them. He knows who those people are. He grew up as a Black man in America. So I don't find it offensive at all that he made those comments. At all. It doesn't. All he was saying is like, well, I'm going to make movies with people I know about, as I would like to do. I mean, the only people I don't know about is I would love to make a Sandman movie. I mean, I don't know what it's like to be an immortal aspect of creation like Dream is, but I think I could wrap my head around it from that perspective. But if I wouldn't make a movie about a Black family and try and make it realistic. I mean, I wouldn't know if it was genuine or not. And me, the gatekeeper of verisimilitude, I would I'm attracted to stories that I hope that I can bring to life. And then some of you might ask me, well, you're working on Tango Shalom now, which is about a Hasidic family. And while I have some, growing up, being raised a Jew, I have some insight into the Jewish community. But yes, you would not be out of line to ask me, what do I know about Hasidic Jews and their lives? Well, we're doing the best we can. But so I don't think that Jordan Peele's comments, I didn't see them as racist. I didn't see them as problematic. He was just flat out saying, well, this is what I know, and this is what I'm going to make movies about. And so I think it's fantastic that that's what he's doing. And it means that, hey, as the gatekeeper of verisimilitude, I expect a great level of verisimilitude from Jordan Peele's movies. I certainly got it from Get Out. I thought it was great. Patrick Glanville asks, can the Foundation trilogy be adapted to TV and film? First of all, the Foundation trilogy, I love the Foundation trilogy. It's another one of those books that I got from the Science Fiction Book Club. I mean, Harry Seldon and the whole concept of psychohistory is one of those heady sci-fi concepts you read as a kid and they never go away. I mean, but I don't know, man. The Foundation trilogy is not your traditional narrative. And I think it could be adapted, but it would be a tough call because you're dealing with people that are going to want to know what your traditional story structure is and how is it going to work. And the Foundation trilogy is a tough nut to crack, kind of like Dune is too. But people have, it's been announced, Kimberly Pierce who directed Boys Don't Cry, was going to do Childhood's End at one point. I was like, I want to see that. But unfortunately, it never got made. It did get made for television. It was okay. But I would like to see the Foundation trilogy just because it's great. I love that book a lot. I thought it was well, the whole series I liked. There's been so many of them now. But I love the first Foundation trilogy. It was just one of those thought-provoking books when you're reading it as a kid. You're like, wow, this is heady stuff. I loved it. Chinese Deadpool is here, or Deadpool Chinese. I like that because of the language, right? I personally think Trump is really putting us in the first, or putting us, but in today's world, putting us first. But in today's world, unity is the way to go. He is alienating us. Well, let me just say, I want to keep, even though I believe that all stories are political, I think that there's no doubt that in my mind, when the president of the United States is elected, the president should be speaking for as many Americans as he or she possibly can. And it's not good to be divisive, especially you want to be a force, a unifying force. At least that's what I see as what the president's supposed to do, because that's what America is all about. And I think that, let's just say, Trump has not been my favorite president since I've been alive. So I think, yes, we need more unity. And I think the president sets the tone. Jennifer Jones is here. Justin Towns, yes. Well, you know what? I don't know what you're saying because I'm going backwards. Okay. Justin Towns says, anyone watch Love and Death and Robots on Netflix? I've watched a few episodes. I've liked it. I don't think it's great. I've seen a few episodes I really liked, but I do like the fact that it got made. Tim Miller, David Fincher got it made. A lot of really talented artists. There's some really great stuff. And they're so short. They're such bite-sized episodes that what a fun watch it is. In an hour, you can watch 3 or 4. I think it's great. You should all watch it. If you like science fiction, you like robots, you like noir, you like animation, it's all there. Glasgow Willem. Hello, Glasgow Willem. Hi, Rob. Logged on during my lunch break here in Japan. Great show as always. Well, I'm glad you're here in Japan. I have to say that, I've gotten a lot of Japanese anime discs, the 2 Galaxy Express movies, of course, the first half of Star Blazers 20, the second season, the Comet Empire storyline, 2202, fucking phenomenal, if I might say. Legend of the Galactic Heroes, the Mazinger Z movie that just came out last year. That's on Blu-ray now. Very excited. So I'm very jealous that you're in Japan. Very jealous because I want to go to Japan, but I need lots of movies. So Jennifer Jones says, Justin Towns, yes, I dig it, but there are definitely some crappy episodes. So yes, Jennifer, you were talking about Love and Death and Robots. Yes, I didn't love it, all of them, but that's okay. I really enjoyed the show. I love that it got made. I think it's great. Fantastic. Das Bones TV says, culture through food. That's the way to go. Look, man, for me, that's the way I've always, I'm like, why, if look, you might hate everybody. You can hate your neighbors. You can hate different people of different cultures, races, creeds. Gilbert, he has just been, I don't know what's wrong with Gilbert today, but he's still a great dog. But yeah, I mean, I've never understood that, because I love world cuisine. Who doesn't? And it's always great when you meet new people. And what's wrong, dude? Why are you so freaking out? He's freaking out. I don't know why. I hope there's no one mysterious. Gilbert, come here, buddy. Come here, dude. Come here. What's wrong? Come up here. Come over here, dude. Come on up. Oh, come on. Yes. Say hello to the people at home, buddy. What's wrong? What's spooking you? Huh? Look at it. Look, he's freshly shorn. Look how great he looks. Don't you look great? Right, buddy? Oh. Sorry about that, you guys. Gilbert, please stop barking. He's not been, I don't know why he's barking. Maybe there's a coyote in the backyard. I have no idea. Anyway, I'm the one who knocks 505 says, I want an animatronic version of Gilbert, like the Teddy Ruxpin. Gilbert, come on, dude. Maybe Pennywise the clown is outside and I just don't know it yet. And Gilbert, he's trying to, you got to be quiet, Gilbert. I don't understand, so I apologize to all of you. Maybe I'll have to go and see what's up. Maybe there's a creature out there that I just don't know. Let's see. Patrick Glanville says, I agree with you about Midnight's Edge. The host is more palatable to me than some of his co-hosts. Yeah, but that's true of everybody, I think. But yeah, I agree. But I really enjoy I really enjoy talking with those guys and girls. Topher Rock says, he's Real Girl 26 said something. I don't know what that is. Writer BL Ali says, if you only clean one side of the glass, your view will always be limited. Yes, I completely agree with that. It's first of all, in my mind, everybody has interesting stories to tell. And whether people are on the right or the left, I found that when you're dealing with people offline and you're face to face with them, you can have really a lot of interesting conversations. Like, for instance, a couple weeks ago, I was sitting in a pub having a meal, And I ended up having a really interesting conversation with a born-again gentleman. He was a contractor, really a good-looking, handsome, virile, fit guy, like in his mid-40s. And we had a conversation. He was explaining to me about his walk with the Lord. And I was interested. I was asking him questions and how it's helped him in his life. And it was really interesting. And I just listened to what he had to say. And it was fascinating. And I was like, at the end of the conversation, I thought, I like this guy. I really like that he has deep convictions that he believes in, and he sticks by them, and he was very articulate about them, and he could explain them to me. And, it was different from my experience, but I respected his understanding and perspective of his own beliefs. And he was articulate about explaining them and explaining why he believed what he believed. And I really felt like, wow, we talked for about an hour. I didn't know the dude. And then he left. And I was like, okay, that was really interesting. And there was mutual respect there. And we had a good conversation and shared a beer. And it was, we didn't share it. We had a beer. Each of us had our own beer, but it was a great conversation. I thought, wow, I've now felt that I just ducked into this pub to get some dinner. And I felt I left a more enriched human being. and I wouldn't normally have had that conversation on a weekday with that gentleman. And I thought that was a good thing. And that's when I tell people that every person you meet has a story to tell that you haven't heard yet. All you have to do is listen. I totally mean that. But you don't just listen, ask questions. I've always found, because I was a documentarian, I'm always asking questions of people. I always want to know, like, tell me. Sometimes I go a little overboard, but I've found that that's the best way to have conversations with people that you don't know is to once you've broken the ice, is to ask them questions. Just talk to them about what they think or where they're from, and let them dictate the flow of the conversation by how they answer your questions, and really listen to them. By the way, it's also true of going on dates. If you're going on a date, Rob's relationship advice. If you're going on a date with a lovely lady that you want to impress, or a lovely dude, or whomever, if you're going out on a date with a person, spend the time asking them questions about themselves. Learn about them. Save sharing yourself for the second date. Just a little bit of advice. And of course, at the same time, always practice the ladies first philosophy. But it works. Patrick Lanville says Gene Roddenberry was literally a social justice warrior. He was constantly virtue signaling all the time. Well, he was, and especially at the time he was doing it. A lot of people say, oh, he was a philanderer, a womanizer. Well, yeah, but the times were the times. Now, somebody said to me that the other day, somebody's complaining about John Wayne's right-wing beliefs. And I'm like, look, man, you cannot define or you cannot expect people who lived in the past to live up to the way we now live. Things change, mores change, society changes, and we're always becoming more and more and more, I'd like to think, more enlightened. And it's like America had slaves for hundreds of years. Now, during that reality, we still have our founding fathers trying to write the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and they were slave owners. But at the time, you had this ingrained. Now, I'm not absolving them of being slave owners, because slavery it's always been a horror, and there's been slavery literally throughout human history, and it's always horrific. But if you were born into a society where these things exist, the point is you can't just have change overnight. Kind of like today, we're going to. Look what happened when Abraham Lincoln came around on slavery, and the Civil War was fought basically over states' rights to have slaves, ultimately. And we went to war. It tore this country apart. Slavery was not a good thing. Enslaving other human beings is never a good thing. I think enslaving animals is probably not a good thing either. At the end of the day, enslaving other human beings and treating certain human beings as lesser, as animals, it was wrong. It was always wrong. It was never right. They kept slaves in ancient Rome. That was never right. It's the human spirit, by virtue of what we are, it's never right. But that doesn't mean that during the 200 years of slavery, everyone in America wasn't evil because they lived in a society where slavery was the norm. but it changed. I mean, just like the Age of Enlightenment, we went from the Dark Ages and we're constantly getting better. But I've never understood, like, you can't just paint people with one color that lived in a time that we don't live in, that we didn't live in, but we, like, right now, everybody wants everything to be perfect, like, right away. And that, it's a change. It's change. It's an evolutionary process. I mean, human beings are brutal, horrible creatures. And it's only lately that we've sort of settled down. And there's a lot of brutality still all over the world, but it's a process. I want it to happen faster too, but we've got to realize that with enlightenment, it's a fits and starts kind of thing, and it's gradual. It doesn't happen immediately. So, Dieter Bastian says that open door and darkness behind you gives me the creeps in a good horror movie way. But if Gilbert starts barking, I'm out of here. That's actually the kitchen, by the way. I just turn off. There's not even a door there. If there was a door, I would shut it. This is actually my little office here. Is my laundry room. The laundry, it's right there. So this was the only place with. I live here with two teenage girls and Elizabeth. They get their own rooms. We have a bedroom. I don't have my own room. I need my own room. I've got the garage, and I have this, and everybody's constantly going back and forth. So I try and make the most of it. Sean M says, writer B.L. Alley, exactly. Discovery is not social justice. It's a crap story that is trying to pull every switch it can, including female leads, to draw an audience. Well, TV is supposed to draw an audience. I think what's really unfortunate about Discovery is, again, the writing. I honestly don't know. It baffles me. It's just a show made by a committee, and that's its problem. It doesn't have a strong figurehead. It does not have a strong creator at the top. I mean, even the Orville, half the scripts are written by Seth MacFarlane. You're seeing the representation of a strong visionary, whether you agree with them or not. It's Seth MacFarlane's show, and it's all the better for it. And you can tell. Discovery, I'm like, I never know what I'm going to get. It's like a box of chocolates, but the chocolates aren't good anymore. They've all got cherries on the inside, and I hate that. Olenti's here. Let's see. Lenti says, Fillmore, I'm truly not getting what was remotely controversial about what he said. I think you're talking about Jordan Peele. I don't either. I mean, I think it was pretty straightforward. Justin Town says, I want a Sandman movie so bad. You know what I want? I want a Sandman TV series, an HBO series. I would love it. It would be great. Patrick Glanville says, I'm mostly a social justice warrior, and I really hate Discovery. When you slam Discovery by saying it's social justice warrior propaganda, I can't take you seriously. I love R&B's attacks on Discovery. Here's my whole thing about social justice. To me, representation is matter of fact. What I really liked about, like, say, Black Panther, we'd never had a movie that somebody spent $150 million on, a big franchise property that was predominantly had African American actors. But what I loved about it was they didn't just go, now it's time. I mean, sure, there's a little bit of, now it's time, we're going to make a film that appeals more to Black audiences, but I think not. I think the character of Black Panther, who's Black, and Wakanda, which is an African nation, the reality of that situation just lent itself well to having a predominantly Black cast. And you introduce a Black character like Black Panther, T'Challa, and you have Chad Boseman, who's, by the way, one of my favorite actors. The man can do no wrong, and he has such range, and everyone loves him. You introduce him in Civil War, you see the relationship he has with his father, and immediately you're drawn in, and the fact that he's going after the Winter Soldier, and that the way they developed him. So to me, that was why Black Panther was such a great film dealing in terms of representation, because it was done as a matter of fact. It's a matter of fact film. Talk about the verisimilitude of it. I never felt like I was being hit on the head or hit over the head with social justice issues. It just was. It was what it was supposed to be, and because it took place in Wakanda, which is in Africa, it makes sense that the cast is mostly Black, and the two Tolkien white guys, which I thought was the funniest thing ever. But that's the way that representation should be done. I mean, to me. So I don't understand. They talk about Sonequa Martin Green. Talk about representation in Deep Space Nine. Captain Sisko, Ben Sisko, Commander Sisko, who became Captain Sisko, you know, until they do Far Beyond the Stars, which was actually an episode that was directly dealing with racism. The show, he was black, but it was just matter of fact. He was just a human being from Earth. I loved it. It was great, and it had the greatest, as I've said before, the greatest unsung single black father and his relationship with his own son Jake that I think's ever been put on television. It's fantastic, but nobody was writing articles about, ooh, Deep Space Nine is a social justice warrior show. I mean, look at, with the advent of Next Generation, look, there's a lot of representation that happened on those shows. And it was just part of Star Trek. I mean, sure, it's still ultimately Camelot America. That's what Star Trek really is. But the fact that they employed all kinds of actors, all different ages, shapes, sizes, colors, creeds. Star Trek has always done that. And it was never like people always cited it, but it was never something, no one ever rolled it out as being, look at how representational we are on this show. No, to be representational, you make it matter of fact and you make it part of the tapestry. You know, like I talked about my Uber driver last year, or my Lyft driver last week, who talked about how through his art, he was just going to talk about the world the way he wanted it to be. He was not going to go out and demand justice. His art was going to reflect the world after we already had justice. And I was like, that's a really interesting way to be. I thought that was really cool. You know, and I've always kind of acted that way. I mean, I'm not perfect, but I've always tried to treat people as if we're all living in the world that I want to exist, as opposed to the world that does exist. Because I want to believe that, hey, the world's going to get better all the time. So don't we all want to be a part of it? Like, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. The old adage is true. And I think that rather than bitch and moan and complain all the time, it's like, well, what are you doing to change whatever it is you're bitching and moaning and complaining about? Are you doing something to alleviate this? I mean, the thing that I've always thought, which is so strange, is that the reason people want to immigrate to America is not to take our stuff or take jobs away from other people. They want to come to America to find safe haven and a place where they can make their dreams come true and build a life for their family and their children and that's why everybody's come to America over the last 200 years. It's not a big mystery. So, I mean, immigrants who've come here want the same thing, and they still want the same thing. People that are fleeing from Central and South America are doing so because they're fleeing from places that are in a state of turmoil and disarray, and they just want to put a roof over their families' heads, and they want to find food, and they want to find good work. And we have that in America. And I don't understand why anybody would object to that. Do I believe in open borders? No. We have to have immigration that is controlled, and that so we know who's here. Look, everybody here has to pay taxes. Look, I want to live in a society where the roads are great. We have hot and cold running water and stoplights and all that. You know, we all have to pay taxes. So I don't want just open borders, and I think people should feel privileged to come here. I especially think that people who already live here should feel privileged, but we take this country for granted, but that's a whole different story. Olenti says, I'm not even into horror, but I do know of many horror films out there. Very few have black leads. Absolutely. I completely agree with you. And I think more films should have black leads. And I like film. Look at like a movie like Attack the Block. You know, it had a black lead and he was English. So, but yes, there are very few films that have black leads. And I'm like, isn't it great that we're getting more of we call it diversity as if it's a dirty word. In my mind, I'm just getting more stories that I have yet to read or hear. It's just new perspectives, which makes horror stories interesting. I thought the whole premise of Get Out was tremendous. I loved it. I mean, it was great. And what was great about it was, as a white person, I could still watch Get Out and completely understand what's going on. And I really appreciated where it was coming from. And I loved it even more. And I think that's great. I think that's really cool. So Chinese Deadpool says, I may sound ignorant, but what's happened recently, it's like the dominating group asks how oppressed should fight for their equality. Otherwise, it's social justice warriors. However, I'd say 90% of the world is good people, but we still need to get rid of 10%, or the tragedy in New Zealand can happen again. Well, Okay, hang on. Let me stop you right there, Deadpool. Get rid of. Look, what we need to do is, and it's all of human history. We've got to change people's hearts and minds. But remember, there's all kinds of, everyone is fearful of losing the status quo, losing what they perceive the status quo to be. Everyone's afraid. And I understand that. If you live in your own bubble and you're sitting on websites and only talking to people that have your same point of view, things can escalate and wind up where they wind up. There's just, we hate each other for stupid reasons. And I really think that I think my plan of making friends by sharing meals, we should share meals with people we wouldn't normally share meals with, sit down and have conversations, because I've traveled around the world. I haven't gone to as many places I would have liked, but I've found that sitting down and having a meal with somebody or a drink is immediately disarming. And you sit down and you talk to someone, and it's always helpful. If I could, I think the United States should have mandatory passports, and we should make people travel, or something like that. But I don't think we need to get rid of anybody. It's just, look, there's lots of different all over the world. We're talking about people, for instance, like on our southern border. It's not like we have an influx of people coming up through Mexico. Here's what I was telling somebody the other day. If you're walking from Central America, all the way up through Mexico, and you come to America, the United States, I would want those people here. People that are that dedicated, that will put themselves, they'll take everything they have on their backs. They'll take their families with them and walk 1,500 miles, 2,000 miles to reach a safe harbor, safe haven. I want those people in this country, because they're going to really care about being here. People that are going to walk that far are going to make something of themselves, and we should help them do it. At least, that's the way I see it, man, because I want those people. I want those people here. Topher Rock says, just my opinion, I believe Batman not killing is one of the things that make him awesome. He doesn't cross that line. Nolan did a great job with that. Yeah, but look, I don't think Batman, I was reading a comic panel where he was talking to Jason Todd today. Somebody tweeted it out where Batman says, Jason Todd says, but you kill. And Batman says in this comic panel, it had to have been an 80s comic. Yes, but I kill in self-defense. I don't set out to kill anybody. The idea that Batman doesn't kill anybody in the course of what he does is absurd. It just, he's not using a machine gun mowing down criminals because he believes in bringing criminals to justice. He believes that they should pay. He doesn't believe in taking lives. I don't think he means to kill. It's just that when you start, looking at what Batman is doing, it's really tough for him to do his job without, there's going to be casualties along the way. It's the people he's dealing with. They're serious, motivated people. And I think people, you've got to realize that. And if Batman kills in the course of duty, I don't have a problem with it. People are trying to kill him. Chinese Deadpool again, or Deadpool Chinese. I'm an MCU fanboy, but the only Asian character I can think of is the Doctor in Age of Ultron, and all Asians in Netflix Marvel are gang members. You know what? Can't argue with that. Absolutely. The villain, the Hand, it's a ninja organization. That's why. What's seeing Master of Kung Fu, Shang-Chi, going to be like for you when you have an Asian lead? It's the same thing. It's whenever you're in a country like in America, we have so many other. Can you imagine being somebody who immigrated here from say you're 25 years old now and you're from the Middle East? You come to America. If you came to America when you're like 10, so you've been here for what, 15 years? How many Middle Eastern terrorists have you had to see and endure since 9/11? They're the one group of people that you can vilify. And even before 9/11, the movie The Siege, it's anybody from the Middle East is fair game. And I can only imagine, what it's like to be that way. And I understand, look, there's a lot of terrorism in the world that is exported from Middle Eastern countries and backed by fundamentalist Islam. But does that mean that every single person from the Islamic world is a terrorist? No. But you wouldn't know that if you watched, say, 24, or you watched Jack Ryan recently. There's so many depictions of Middle Eastern terrorists that that I can't imagine what it's like to be from the Middle East and growing up in this country now, because it's like the one group of people you can always show them as being bad. But yes, I think with it's going to be great to see Shang-Chi and seeing the Asian community represented. And what's great is Shang-Chi's not like, well, I don't know what they're going to do. I think it's going to be great what they're going to do, but I don't know. I mean, Shang-Chi's not going to be American. I wouldn't imagine he'd be American, but maybe. Who knows? Victory Unlimited show says the benefit of exposure to the narratives of multiple different perspectives is that it broadens our knowledge and appreciation for mankind as a whole, and it encourages even more new filmmakers to share their visions with us. Boom. That's a mic drop right there. That's exactly right. That is exactly right. I mean, I grew up watching movies from all over the world. I was lucky. I grew up in Seattle where we had the Seattle International Film Festival. So there was all kinds of, I loved watching movies from all over the world because even, I remember watching Lasse Hallström's wonderful film, My Life as a Dog. And there's some pretty frank discussions of burgeoning, emerging sexuality and nudity and things where I thought that was, wow, that was when I first saw the film, I thought that was pretty sophisticated. But, in other countries other than America, things like nudity and sexuality are not as forbidden and taboo. I mean, when it comes to those kinds of things, we're very immature in this country. Nudity, we still have problems. I mean, you can kill anybody you want in this country on screen, but show a breast, have a nipple slip during the Super Bowl. Les Moonves still had it out for Janet Jackson. I mean, we're so weird here. It's bizarre, but I couldn't have said it better. The benefit of exposure to narratives of multiple different perspectives is that it broadens our knowledge and appreciation for mankind as a whole, and it encourages even more new filmmakers to share their visions with us. Right? That's exactly right, man. You nailed that. Magic K says, have you ever tried hot pot before? Is hot pot different than pot? Are you talking about weed? Or are you talking about a hot pot like I made stew in? My girlfriend made an incredible stew the other day, and we have a big hot pot. But if you're asking me if I've ever tried pot before, I was smoking pot when, ninth grade, 8th grade, I guess. I was never really into pot. Cocaine and ecstasy, however. No, pot doesn't really float my boat. It never did. The last time I got really, really stoned was like 25 years ago when I got really stoned. I mean, I was smoked out by someone and all I could do was I had these hallucinations back to the day I first saw the $6 Million Man. I just had these because we were watching there was like a marathon of the $6 Million Man movies that we were watching. That's why we were getting stoned. The TV movies like Bionic Breakdown. And I was so stoned, and I was thinking about all I could think about was the first episode I ever saw of the $6 Million Man, where he pulled out there was like some just like a SWAT van with this radar on top of it, and it was making all the townspeople go to sleep or something. And Steve Austin pulled out this one of those cans with cement in it, like a post for a fence, and threw it into the truck. I don't know, but yeah. So anyway, I'm not a fan of weed. I don't care if anybody else smokes it. Recreational drug use in moderation is not something I have a problem with. But different strokes for different folks. I don't even have any. I have no prescription medication of my own at all. None, zero. So anyway, Louis Wu says, Deadpool Chinese. Are you looking forward to the Shang-Chi movie? Yes, I think he is. I'm looking forward to the Shang-Chi movie because I love the Doug Mensch, Paul Gulacy issues. And they've been collected in an omnibus form, so that's pretty awesome. Chris Connolly says, Deadpool Chinese, Shang-Chi movie in the works. Yes, it is. Jason McKibben says, Master of Kung Fu was a favorite of mine. Gulacy was on fire. Gulacy, pardon me, I say Gulacy. It's Gulacy, Paul Gulacy. Gulacy was on fire. He also did a really cool thing called Six from Sirius that Epic Comics put out that I really like, which you should check out. Magic K says, oh, hot pot is Chinese food. Like you have a pot with hot water and you put a lot of different foods inside there. Well, you got my feelings on drugs. Yes, I like hot pots. I like that kind of food. I like dim sum very much. But yes, I've had Chinese hot pot food. Not that I know what it is. Yes. Um, a Real Girl 26 says Deadpool Chinese. He really wasn't in Infinity War long at all, but Doctor Strange is where it's at. I think he shines. I loved Doctor Strange in Infinity War. I thought he was great. And he was definitely a pivotal character. I think he's great. And I would put him up to lead the Avengers for a while. I would love to see Cumberbatch lead the Avengers in case Stark and Steve Rogers aren't around. I think he'd be great. I think it'd be awesome. It would be really good. GW427 says, I was going to watch, but I fell asleep. But I just want to add, people fear the unknown. But like you say, everyone has a story. We just have to listen. Yeah. Like, the thing about humanity is we're really not that different. I mean, no matter where you go, we pretty much all want the same things. We all want to take care of our kids. We all want to have a place to hang our hats. We all want to have our next meal. We all want to make enough money where we can live comfortably and maybe travel around. We want to have a partner that we're attracted to. So it's, we're all kind of the same. I think we all want the same things, really. I guess. I mean, and everybody does the world over. It's just the way we go about it is different. And what I thought was interesting, I mean, why should you hate somebody from where their ancestry is from? Like, if you're black, it means you have African ancestry. Well, the reason you have black skin is because of the environment in Africa. The same is true if you're Asian. Asians look different than, say, Caucasians because of where we all came from. And it's all about climate and region and why it's so weird that we are prejudicial against people because of ultimately the regions that their ancestry is from on the planet Earth. Like, I've always thought of it as the planet Earth. So it's like, oh, you have ancestry on this region, on this continent. How does that make that how am I better than you because you have ancestry from there? It's always been so weird to me. I've never really quite understood it. I mean, growing up as a science fiction fan, I've always been a globalist myself. I'm like, yeah, well, when the aliens come to Earth, they're not going to care what pigment your skin is or whether your eyes look a little different than someone else's eyes. We're just going to be humanity, and they're going to exterminate all of us. They're not going to. Extraterrestrial civilizations are not going to they're not going to delineate. They might not even notice we're different colors. They're just going to see us as these crazy bipedal ambulatory creatures to be done away with, or not. Maybe they'll just like us because they're nice. They won't want to steal our water or eat us the way they did in V. But in an alien invasion, man, we're all human beings. That's the way I look at it. Eugene Keeler says, the Filipinos are quite happy enough knowing many artists have our blood. We take that representation for now. Haley Stanfield, Batista, even Miss Universe will take it for now. Yeah, I mean, I think it gets better all the time. We're doing better all the time. I mean, what's really interesting is look at all the people that are here in this chat right now. How many different kinds of people are there? You got Chinese Deadpool, who's in the UK studying. I mean, you've got John Suntries here from Chicago. You got a Chicagoan who says Paul Gulacy also did the James Bond comic Serpent's Tooth for Dark Horse Comics. Yes, and that was really cool. So you got a Chicagoan here. You got people from literally all over the world. Vesna, who's not here, she's in Bosnia, and there's people from all over the world that are here. There's Olenti, female. She's black. She's here. She's not in the United States. We're all here having the conversation about the same topics, geeky stuff. We all love it. All of us love it. We might not be sharing a meal on this chat, but we're sharing our love of Flights of Fancy and the MCU and superheroes and the Foundation trilogy and Jordan Peele's movies. And we all like this stuff. We're all from all over the world. We're from all over the planet Earth, and we're talking about the same stuff that we love. Doesn't matter whether you're a guy or a girl. Doesn't matter what country you're from. Doesn't matter what color you are. Everybody wants to see Endgame. We all want to see Endgame. I mean, isn't that great? Like in my mind. So why are we? Why is there racial prejudice? Why does anybody really care what color somebody is or where they're from if we all like the same things? I mean, that's kind of the world I grew up in. And when Jordan Peele says that he's not going to make a movie with a white dude in the lead, I don't think anybody should get mad at that. Jordan Peele's just making the best movies he can make. And I can't imagine a black filmmaker. It's not like, Spike Lee. Look, Spike Lee made a movie like The 25th Hour. It's not beyond him to make a film with Edward Norton in the lead role. but it's not necessarily his choice. Spike Lee also made Inside Man. He can branch out. He didn't go, I'm not going to make Inside Man, but Inside Man had a great cast. A very diverse cast actually. So to me, it's like we're all humans, man, and we all need to grow up. Where it's a continual process of evolution, and eventually, we're all going to be intermixed. All the races will eventually. I mean, maybe there'll be holdouts, but mixed race kids, or I shouldn't even say mixed race, mixed genetic ancestry, whatever. I mean, I think that's what we're supposed to do. The gene pool will eventually weed all of our genetic, like it's supposed to, and the human race will probably become the most beautiful it's ever been, and we will reach out into the stars, and we will all look back at the same planet and be like, yeah, man, we're all from Earth. So that's our future, and I can't get here soon enough, as far as I'm concerned. BL Ali says, we're all the same and share mostly the same DNA with all life on Earth, other than octopuses. It's true. Octopuses have some crazy genetic backgrounds. Not that OG Deadbolt says, not that long ago, you didn't even see mixed couples in commercials. Hell no. And look, it's an evolutionary process, and we're doing pretty good. We are doing pretty good. And now that there's all kinds of, and remember, we in America don't see the world the same way that people in other countries do either. Because we have our legacy of slavery here, and we do have we have a different history than, say, the UK does, or than France does. I mean, we all have different histories, so we see the world different ways. We're not all the same. Not all white people feel the same way. Not all black people feel the same way. Not all Asian people feel the same way. It depends where you grew up and what your background is. So Dieter Bastian says, Into the Badlands is back on television, one of the best martial arts shows ever. Unfortunately, just for the last time around. Yes, it's going off the air. I like that show. Pleasant Valley Picker Canada says, always thought those octopuses were aliens. You know what? If you guys want to read a really great series of books, one of my favorite science fiction authors is Stephen Baxter, and he wrote a trilogy, the Manifold trilogy. There's Manifold Space, Manifold Time, and Manifold Origin. They've all got the same characters, but they each take place in alternate universes. Alternate Origin wasn't my favorite, but Manifold Origin wasn't my favorite, but Manifold Space and Manifold Time are great, and octopuses play a role. You should read those books. They're really good. Richard Lee says, aliens do exist. They just don't like us. I mean, if you're an alien from a highly evolved society and saw a planet showing films like Mars Attacks, wouldn't you think that planet is horribly racist? I don't know. I think that would be interesting. I don't know if the aliens would even recognize the aliens in Mars Attacks as being, they might think it's funny. Maybe that's why they would like us, is because we're making movies like Mars Attacks that they might think are quaint. The same way that when, a 5-year-old kid draws a picture for you and you look at it and you're like, oh, how nice. Battery is here, but it's spelled with numbers. I like that. Battery, we're all the same on the inside. Tell that to Jordan Peele, who judges you based on your skin color. Well, clearly you just got here. Jordan Peele does not does not judge us on our skin color. That's what this whole hour and 23-minute conversation has been about. But it's interesting that you say that. I mean, see how different people can react to one interview in the Hollywood Reporter. I don't know. Jedi Knight and friend of Captain Solo. Love or hate Trump? Thoughts on him ordering NASA to get back to the moon in 5 years? About time. Listen, here's what I think about that. It's easy to say things, but as Rusty James said about Biff Wilcox in the 1983 teen film Rumblefish, which I recommend, saying ain't doing. You can say whatever you want. I want to make a sequel to Free Enterprise in the next 6 months. I really would. That doesn't mean I'm going to do it. If you're going to say that we're going to go back to the moon in 5 years, what is your plan? Before you say that, what I want to see is a well thought out plan. I want to see the funding. I want to see all the people that you're going to employ to get us there. You should already know before making those kinds of statements. And saying ain't doing. And I don't think making wildly unsupported statements like that is good, but I would love to see it happen. But I would like somebody that comes out and somebody that comes out and really has a plan on how to do it. I don't think it's actually possible to get men back to the moon in 5 years. I really don't. And if maybe we could, but I think it would be reckless. Justin Town says, why do we need to get back to the moon? I'll tell you why we need to get back to the moon. Because we need to figure out a way to get off Earth. We need to spread humanity out into the solar system, if only to protect ourselves. And also the byproducts do what's fascinating is the space race. And let's we not forget, it was a race. It was a politically motivated race to beat the Russians to the moon, to beat the Russians into space. The byproducts of the research, we learned more. It was pure science. We learned more about so many things. We had medical breakthroughs. We had technological breakthroughs, metallurgical breakthroughs. We had all kinds of breakthroughs that spilled over into our society. Space research, especially on that scale and that quickly, benefited every part of our society. We need to be doing that. We need, our science can only be increased exponentially by a new commitment to making our way into the universe. And that's why we need to do it. For that alone. So I think that's why we need to get into space. OG Deadbolt says, one place I've seen people treat each other equally without regards to race is in some churches I've been to. Nobody cared about your pigment. That's probably true, because when you go into the house of the Lord, you're there to worship. Battery says, he says his hiring process excludes whites. Okay, let's for a minute say that he said that. I don't have a problem with that. I mean, the population of the United States is a little less than 14% black. As I've said earlier, the black population in this country has never, ever, ever been treated with equality. When someone like Jordan Peele gets financial success, and that's the only success you can really, once you get financial success in this country, a lot of doors open up for you. I have no problem at all for Jordan Peele to hire black crew members, because why not? What's wrong with that? It's not like there aren't plenty of films being made that white crew members or Asian crew members can. I think that what Jordan Peele is doing is he's helping his community that has been underserved and has not been treated fairly in hundreds of years. So a filmmaker like Jordan Peele, I think he should hire whoever he wants. And if he wants to concentrate on hiring people from his own community, what's wrong with that? I mean, the reverse has been true of white people since the dawn of America. So it's one filmmaker. And if he wants to bring up people, especially, give a shot to, again, the 13.6% of the population that's black in this country, that means that more than 80% isn't black. So there's 80% more people to be working. One filmmaker is I think not a bad thing, and nor should it be threatening to anybody who's not black, because there's plenty of opportunities to have that you can go get elsewhere. And I don't see a problem with that. Because the reverse certainly isn't true. If Jordan Peele's not hiring his own community, well, who will? And I think it's not a problem. I really believe that. Victory Unlimited is back. Victory Unlimited says, in A Time to Kill, when the lawyer gets the racist jury to deliver the right verdict by asking them to imagine that the victim was white too, it was a powerful example of how empathy can positively impact our point of view. I totally agree with that. You know what I really like about what you just said, Victory, is it's exactly why I love storytelling and why I specifically love movies the most. Because what I love about a motion picture is that people from all walks of life, I have never, and maybe this isn't true of everybody, but I have never in my life ever walked into, well, this is not true. This is a caveat. I'll give you a caveat. When I walk into a movie theater, I'm really not paying attention to who I'm sitting next to, really, unless they're a chatterbox and aren't going to shut up and play with their phones too much. Then I know I'm in trouble. But when you go to places like the ArcLight or premium theaters, it's not really a problem. I've never once thought about who I'm sitting next to, what color they are, what their background is, whether they're straight, gay, religious, not religious, black, white. I don't care. What I care about is sitting next to people that really want to be in that audience, because there's nothing better when the lights go down and feeling that electricity. It doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, what walk of life you might be in, what your economic background is, what your sexuality is. If you're in that movie theater with me, you're there to see that movie. And when the lights come down, you can feel that electricity. And I'm sure I'm going to feel like Endgame, whether it's Captain Marvel, Endgame, Shazam, Hellboy, whatever. It's great. And no matter who you are or what you're there for or where you came from, when that light of that projector hits the screen and starts playing that movie, all that matters is that movie that's playing for the 2 hours that you watch it. And what's so cool is it's the great movies, the great equalizer. When you're in that theater, you'll watch anything. You open your mind up to have a story told to you, and that's when you grab people and you can teach them something, or maybe show them something they might not have thought of before, or maybe they weren't open to. But when you watch it on a movie screen, you've paid to be there, so your mind is open. It's like, show me something. And I love that. I love that about movies. I think it's the best. It's just the best feeling when you get that. And I agree with you. I mean, I like A Time to Kill a lot, actually. I love The Firm too. I love, John Grisham novels. Not all of them were perfect, but The Rainmaker. Coppola's The Rainmaker with Matt Damon and Mickey Rourke. I like that movie too. Yeah. Pleasant Valley Picker Canada says, it's like Rashomon, Rob. An event can be interpreted by every viewer in a different way. I know, and that's great. I love that, and that's why Rashomon is such a great movie. Dale M says, ha ha, Trump and plans are equivalent to tar and water. Well, here's my thing about our president. If you're going to announce that, hey, we're going to go to the moon in 5 years, you got to have a plan. You can't just decide you're going to go to the moon. Like, you know what? Like I said, I want to make free enterprise too in the next 6 months. I also want to climb Mount Everest. I need to lose 60 pounds and work out for about a year before I'd have the stamina to do it, but I'd like to do it. I don't have a plan to do it, but I'd like to do it. Holenti says, I don't ever want to leave this atmosphere. I can understand that. Eugene Keeler says, speaking of meals, I remember Dave Chappelle say, if you don't like chicken and watermelon, something is wrong with you. When we have American trainers here, they want to eat our food. Cool. Yeah, I love that. I mean, Dave Chappelle, oh, he's so funny. Chris Conley said, Kennedy sent Reed Richards up. Bam, fantastic. That's funny. Deadbolt says, I thought we were going to Mars now. Let others go to the moon. Just don't break it like in the time machine. Yes. Matt Limpicky says, when me and my sister were young and visited my grandma Pat, my dad's mom, we called her the Black Grandma. We didn't know that because she was so much darker than me and I'm white, and she made us laugh like hell. Yeah, isn't that funny? I like that. Hey, Bill Hunt's here. Men on the moon in 5 years, Bill says. It's possible, but unlikely. SpaceX might be able to do it first with their Starship project. They'd have to accept a lot of risk to get it done. Yeah, it's true. SpaceX is kicking ass, though. They might very well get it done. You never know. You never know. Topher Rock says, Peele looking for just black leads is great. The fact I can't think of a horror film with a black family at the center is pretty horrible. That's why he's casting who he is. As a white guy, I love that. Dude, me too. I mean, and they're not, he's not just casting a black actors to play a black family. It's like a normal black family. It's a mom, a dad, and 2 kids. They're like normal. It's when you see that, talk about representation, and and they're truly a black family. I mean, they're not like the whitewashed black family to be accepted by everybody. They're a black family. And I think that's great. Richard Ford says, FYI, Expanse Book 8, Time Its Wrath is out. To be honest, I thought the 8th book was already out, but that's great that it's out. Battery says, I exclude people based on skin color, a statement only made by someone who is racist. Okay, perhaps, but remember, when a black person says that they're excluding, they only want to hire other black people, think of their history. it's okay. I think they can have a pass. You know, they growing up in America, it's so weird because it's not like we white people haven't had dominion over this country for the last, well, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. You know, and there was a point where we did enslave our black brothers and sisters. So, like, why get mad at that? All I care about is that Jordan Peele makes some great movies, and apparently he's made 2 good movies. I have, but I agree with you, Battery. You say you don't correct an imbalance by being racist. I completely agree with that. I do not believe someone should trade their own oppression to oppress others. I honestly think that's the wrong way to go. What you do is you stop oppressing people, period. But I don't think that Jordan Peele is doing that. I really don't. And if he wants to bring more African Americans, more Black Americans into the fold, into Hollywood, to work on his crews and his staff, I think it's his prerogative to do so. It certainly is. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's only a good thing because what he's doing is he's getting people more opportunities that might not have those opportunities. He's not stepping on my ability to go out and make my own way. And I think it's good. I think it's good. That's why it's great that he has the financial success to be able to make those decisions. He's one guy. And he's using his success for good. The good of his community, the good of people that have been marginalized for a long time. There's nothing wrong with that. And I don't have a problem with that at all. And look, he's not coming out and saying, I'm never going to hire white people. Look, you can't, it's impossible to hire only one race when you're making movies. There's too many positions you need. There's too many people that work on movies. And there's simply the amount of people in the movie business reflect our culture. There's less than 14% of the population in America is Black. You know, to find an all Black crew in Hollywood, it's going to be tough. It's a hard thing to do, but you know what? More power to him. Let's see. Alvaro Zeno says, R&B love the shout out for Baxter's trilogy, fellow Squidians. The Soul of an Octopus by Cy Montgomery is worth checking out. China Melville's Kraken is a rock and read. It is. China, I think it's Melville. I say Melville. Is it Melville? I don't know. I say Melville. China Melville. I love China Melville's books. It's great. And Kraken is a rock and good read. Bill Hunt says, what's exciting about the NASA news this week is that the agency seems to be remembering its roots more. NASA used to be exactly like SpaceX, bold, daring, risk-taking. They need to get back to that. I agree. And actually, Bill, I think it's really interesting that NASA and SpaceX have been teaming up. You know, the last launch they did was definitely a team up between the two of them, which is cool. Richard Lee says, what is your favorite Will Eisner story of all time? You know what? I couldn't tell you because I've not read enough Will Eisner to actually answer that question. Will Eisner is a gaping hole in my comic knowledge. I've only read a few Will Eisner. I've got some like Spirit collections and things like that, but I don't know enough about Will Eisner to answer that question. So I will endeavor to come. I will have an answer for you at some point though. Real Girl 26 says, the thing I loved about watching Black Panther in the theater was the mix of folks who were there to see it. Right? I mean, it was great. The mix of folks is what made it all awesome. And the fact that everybody went, I mean, it proves to me, like when I went and watched Black Panther, I wasn't thinking to myself, man, there's a lot of Black people on the screen. No, I was thinking to myself, this is really cool. The nation of Wakanda that I've been reading about for years and years and years. I just wish the only thing I wished happened was Storm would show up, even though it's not canonical anymore that they were married. But I think maybe, I don't know. No one says, I hope Hellboy is good. Me too. Matt Limpicki says, my dad's mom was Italian. That's a whole different thing because Italians are a race too. Henry K says, Mr. Rob, do you sleep? I do sleep. I sleep. You know, I don't like to sleep because I have too much work to do. Like right now, as I'm talking to you, I'm actually recompressing footage, Black Magic footage that was shot in 2015 that I compressed in 2016. I'm recompressing it now and recutting it into reels 5 and 6 of Tango Shalom because I'm widening the color space because the original transcoded footage I did back in 2016 was in Rec 709, and now it needs to be opened up, which is a big pain in the butt. But it gives my color timer more range to play with, so I'm doing it. But yes, I would love to sleep just 4 hours a night if I could, but we unfortunately need sleep, which is a bummer. But what can you do? Let's see. Pleasant Valley Picker Canada says, Rob, what do you think about Ron Perlman not being asked to do the Hellboy film? Saw an interview and he seemed a bit hurt not being asked. He was awesome the first two films. You know what? I agree. I think it was I think Ron Perlman was that part. I mean, David, what's his last name? The guy who's playing Hellboy now, who's in Stranger Things. He looks great. But, Ron Perlman should have been asked to come back. But I understand, the rights issues, different company making it. They wanted to keep the price down. Ron Perlman probably would have charged him more money. But, I would like to have seen Ron Perlman come back. I understand. He definitely should be sore about it. Glasgowian. Perhaps instead of attacking Peele's view, a bit of introspection and consideration of why he considers such actions to be necessary in modern-day America would serve us better. Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. Like, it's amazing to me that isn't understood. Like Jordan Peele somehow Public Enemy #1 and the white America is being attacked. No, not at all. So yes, a battery comes back. What if someone approaches him with a good story and the main character is white and Peele passes it up based on no whites allowed policy? Wouldn't we all be missing out? Yeah, but that's true. But Jordan Peele might pass it along to another filmmaking friend of his. What I want from Jordan Peele is for Jordan Peele to make the movies he wants to make. I don't think that Jordan Peele is what we want is Jordan Peele to bring his unique vision to the screen, not worrying about whether or not he's going to hire people of a certain race. I think what makes Jordan Peele's visions interesting, his stories interesting, is because they're about Black Americans. Maybe he'll make a story about Blacks in other countries, but that's what makes his stories good. I mean, we've got plenty of stories about white people. They're all over the place. Why can't filmmakers like Spike Lee and Jordan Peele tell us about the Black experience in America? I mean, that's why their movies are unique. That's why I want to watch them. As a matter of fact, in a way, I don't want Jordan Peele to make a movie about white dudes because I want him to bring his unique perspective. But if he wants to, I'd certainly watch his movies. I just want to see Jordan Peele keep making movies and have them be cool. Bill Hunt says, I exclude people based on skin color, unspoken by fans of Bond, bitching about Idris Elba casting rumors. Now, okay, I would say something about that. I mean, the only way James Bond is a certain character. He was defined as a character. First of all, Idris Elba's too old to play Bond. They need Bond. They need to cast a Bond who can play Bond for another 15 years. I mean, Idris Elba would be older. But I think it would be really cool if they finally came out and said that James Bond is not the name of a real guy, but it's a code name they give to all double O's. When you become when you're 007, you also get the name James Bond. I know people have batted that around for a long time, but that's how you make a Black man as James Bond. You finally definitively say that a 007 status comes with the name James Bond, and then you can have anybody of any color, which you could do. But I mean, I think the Bond character he's so traditionally English, and I would like to see a different character, like a new character played by Idris Elba. The 3D Blu-ray version of Aquaman doesn't come with open aspect ratios. Man, I'm pissed. And just DTS MA 5.1 sound, first world problems. Yeah, but you know what? It is a first world problem, but it's also a big problem because they're not giving you what they should give you. Is the real question is, I haven't looked at the regular 4K version of Aquaman. Does it come with opening aspect ratios? I think James Wan said it did, but I haven't looked at the disc yet. Dark Knight 1998 says social justice warriors are ruining the entertainment industry, in my opinion. Well, yeah, because you can't, once you start putting diversity in front of your stories and making that more important than the stories that you're telling, you're always going to lose. you're always going to lose. You know, whether you're same's true if you put a political agenda first and foremost. The story should have all these things baked into it, and it should be Anthony Morales. It should just be self-evident. Anthony Morales says, if Jordan Peele makes a blaxploitation film, are people going to freak out that there aren't any whites in the lead roles? God, I hope not. You know, how sad is it that Larry Cohen passed away, by the way? If you guys don't know Larry Cohen, he died. Larry Cohen made, a nice white Jewish man, made Black Caesar, a great blaxploitation movie. He also directed Original Gangsters with Richard Roundtree and Fred Williamson and Pam Grier. But he also made movies like the It's Alive trilogy. He made God Told Me To. He made Q the Winged Serpent. He also wrote movies like Bestseller, which is kind of off the wall. Larry Cohen was an incredible force in the entertainment industry in the late 60s, 70s, and 80s, and 90s. And he passed away the other day. I actually got to meet him and spent time with him over the years as part of the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films. So give it up for Larry Cohen. But Larry Cohen made one of the first blaxploitation movies, Black Caesar. And he was a white Jew, so you never know. Just Plain Steve says, Peele writes stories he relates to based on his life as a black man. If I asked any guy here to write a movie based on PMS and menopause, everyone would say, shouldn't you ask a woman? Yes, I talked about that earlier. I completely agree with you. Bartimac is here from Ireland. Scorsese makes movies about Italian Americans mostly, sometimes Irish Americans. If Peele wants to tell a story from an African American's point of view, that's okay. Totally agree. Absolutely agree. Jennifer Jones says, what about a lady Bond? Would we get some hot Bond boys then? Laugh out loud. Well, you know, here's the funny thing. If you make a lady Bond, then you're going to be emulating the tropes of the James Bond character. Why not create a female secret agent that's new, where she uses her feminine wiles to do things in an interesting new way? That's kind of like what I think should be done. Richard Lee says, Rob is like Vince McMahon. He only sleeps 30 minutes a night. Chad Crypto says, just like my friend back in college, she's from Japan. All the movies in Japan have Japanese people. To see a movie from the USA, she's blown away to see something different. I know, right? I was in South Korea last year, and it was strange. It was the first time I was ever in a place where I felt completely isolated and alone, and everyone looked at me strange. And, you know, it was because I was in South Korea. Bunyan Snipe says, Sweetheart made almost no movies with white leads. No problem there. And Sweetheart, come on. Peking Opera Blues. Absolutely. Like, you know, no one's having these conversations in, like, Asia. In Hong Kong, you know, there's not people going, you know, there needs to be more white people in Hong Kong cinema. I don't want to see white people in Hong Kong cinema. I want to see Tony Leung, and I want to see Maggie Chung, and I want to see Chow Yun Fat. I mean, I want to see, you know, I want to see Asian people. That's the thing about America is we're so not homogenized the way we're you go to an Asian country, it's mostly Asian people. There's no representation there, and nor do I want there to be. Anyway, Magic K says, how to write a good person of color or female character? Write a good character first. I agree, man. I totally agree with you. Just like you never put your universe before your characters. Ben Bamboo says, the same people that are bothered by what Peele said were triggered by Larson's call for more diversity. Brie Larson reminds me of a great quote. When you're used to privilege, equality feels like oppression. That's a great quote. Yeah, I just don't understand. I mean, it doesn't bother me. I don't understand why people got, especially fans, getting triggered and weird. Like, all Brie Larson wanted to do was get more people that she wasn't normally. I mean, look, the analytics of my YouTube channel, the analytics of this channel, I have here. I'll tell you what they are. I'm gonna look. I can look at the analytics of this. I have an app. I'm gonna tell you. Let's try an interesting experiment. I can look at my YouTube analytics in real time about this channel. And one of the things that I'm going to look up, I'm going to look up the analytics, and I'm going to look up audience. Here is my, well, you can't really see, it blows out. Gender. Would you like to know according, and I guess these are people that check in, the analytics for my real-time analytics of the last 28 days up till this moment, 98.9% of my audience is male. 98.9. 1.1%. There's not even any, it's exactly 100%. 1.1%. 1.1% of my audience is female, according to my YouTube analytics. Now, if I got up and I said, I would really like to see 30% of my audience to be female, people would, I'm sure my male, not you guys, not you people here, because you know where I'm coming from, but I'm sure I would get attacked on social media. Oh, Rob Burnett, he doesn't like the white man, he doesn't like the black man, he's like the man, he only wants women. Well, 98.9%, I bet we would have much livelier discussions if we had 30% of a female audience in this crowd. Not that we don't have a lively discussion now, but it would be better if we had 30. I'd enjoy it more. But no, I think we would have more conversations, more people, more diverse, more interesting things. Not that you guys aren't interesting, but just different. Now, I look at this, 59.3% of my audience is from the United States. 13% from the United Kingdom, 6% Canada, Australia, Germany. There's nobody from France here. Nobody from Israel here. I know there's people from India here. Nobody from New Zealand or Australia. I mean, there probably are, but that's what my analytics say. My audience, the people that watch this show, this is really interesting. You want to know what the analytics are right at this moment in time? I'll tell you. So 18 to 24-year-olds who watch Robservations, this live chat, 14.7%. 25 to 34-year-olds, 28.4%. And my biggest demographic, 35 to 44-year-olds, 32.7%. 45 to 54-year-olds, 21.5%. And bringing up the rear, 55 to 64-year-olds, 2.3%. Right there, real-time analytics. I love all of you that are here that are watching the show, but wouldn't it be great if we had people from more countries? We had more girls here. I mean, the analytics don't go into whether you're straight, black, white, gay, non-binary, whatever. It doesn't go into those. There's no way for it to tell, but I would love to have all kinds of people here from all over the place. It would just make these discussions even more lively and more interesting. So I think that's cool. And it's interesting when you watch this. Battery says more women is not the same sentiment as less men. Well, okay, but if there were more women here, it would be by definition mean that there were less men here because 30% the demographic. But even if I said I'd really rather have less men, I'll flat out say it. This place is a sausage fest, Battery. I got 98% swinging dicks in the house. Now I don't know about you, but the world is always a better place when the male-female ratio is a little bit better than 1.1% female. That's just me. Jennifer Jones says, we have fun. But, it's like I don't understand. Like, I'm not saying I don't want men here. I love you guys. You're my audience. But on the other hand, that by me saying it's obvious, like it would be a better place if there were more different kinds of people here to have conversations with. Vesna's here. Willow went to bed. Vesna's not here. Willow went to bed. And I think that it's just better to have all kinds of people. Look, man, if you have a party, parties are always better with a very diverse group of people, with all kinds of different things to say. They bring different. Look, the more diverse people's booze choices are, the better off your party is. The better conversation you get, the better food you get. There's nothing better for a party than diversity of people. And I don't just mean diversity in terms of skin color, but I mean diversity in terms of economic background or jobs or sexuality. It's always good to mix it up. A great party is a great party when you have all kinds of different people mixing together and mixing it up. That's what a great party is, man. And I think that's true of any business. It's true of the more diverse opinions you have, the more, and look, I'm not saying that somebody at the top shouldn't call the shots, because as I go back to my favorite director of all time, Stanley Kubrick, used to send his assistant around to all the department heads and talk to people on set and say, is there any, Mr. Kubrick would like your ideas before the day starts. If there's anything you have to say, please feel free to do so. Anything at all. I mean, people who are secure in themselves, are secure with their lives, I don't think fear others, and I think that there's nothing wrong with people sticking up to get a little security. Jordan Peele is getting some security for people who have traditionally been marginalized and haven't had a big presence in the film business. And I think in the long run, all we're going to get is better movies. And that's all I care about. I just want better movies and better stories. Well, listen, you guys, I can't believe this chat. This has been a good chat. I've had fun talking with all of you. It's gone on for almost 2 hours. It's almost 10:58, and my transcoding is done. I have to cut my shots in before I go to bed into reel 6 of the film so I can take to my colorist tomorrow, and he can start work on the big dance competition of Tango Shalom. So Donnie Pearson says, I shall hit the hay soon, Rob, but thanks for this evening's live stream. See you in the morning on Campia. In the words of the late BBC Radio 2 personnel, Desmond Carrington, bye just now. I like that. Bye just now. I like that. I can't steal his thing. Pleasant Valley Picker Canada says, Rob, you need to start a geek hookup website. You know what? That would only get me in heaps of trouble. And by the way, with only a 1.1% female constituency on this channel, I should start a gay grinder, and I'd probably do a gay grinder. Grinder's already gay. I mean, a geek grinder. I'd probably do better than a geek dating website. But no, I don't think that's a bad idea. I think as more and more people find this site, and I hope tell your friends, please subscribe. Tell everybody to subscribe. Anybody you know to join the Post-Geek Singularity community. Go to my website, theburnetwork.net. I'm going to start putting more people's pictures that they send. I'm going to have an imagination connoisseur gallery of, tattoos, of your collections, or whatever. I'm going to start a place where we can go and chat. I mean, I don't know about starting a geek dating site because I can't be responsible. Once hearts start to break, I'd feel I'd have to intervene, and that would be all bad. It would be bad. But anyway, wait, I like this. Bunyan Snipe says, geek inder. Instead of grinder, geek. I don't know how to pronounce that, but I know what you mean. But here's the thing. If you started a geek, like a geek grinder or a geek, what is it? What is a swipe right, swipe left? I've never been on that. Tinder. If you started a geek Tinder, people wouldn't hook up so much as end up playing board games with each other. I guess that would be a good thing, which is good. Real Girl 26 says, yeah, Rob, I don't think a geek dating site would work so well with so few of us ladies on here. Sanity's Radical says, great chat, Rob. Idiot Head says, no Vulcaneers sweep right. Jason McKibben, Seek Geek. I like that. But there is a geek dating website. Sanity's Radical says, have a good night, buddy. Kinder. Phil Hunt says, Kinder. That's funny. Yes. Jennifer Jones says, there's already a nerd dating app. It's just not popular. Here's the thing. Do you know why it's not popular? Because even geek girls don't want to hook up with geek guys. They don't. Because why would you? Not all of us are great. No, I'm just kidding. We're all great here. All 98.9% of us dudes. Anyway, everybody, I want to, again, thank you for all your support. Thank you for all your super chats. Thanks for being here. Thanks for everybody who has made this, the Post-Geek Singularity community, such a great place to be. I love doing these chats. They're always fun. And for those who've asked, I'm going to move them back to next week I'm in Las Vegas at CinemaCon. So I'm going to try and do night chats in Vegas. And CinemaCon's going to be really interesting. I got a big itinerary today. It's not like Comic-Con. It used to be called Show West. It's very much an industry convention about movie exhibition and stuff. They've got some really interesting panels about the future of the industry and technology panels. I'm really, really interested in going. So I will be there next week. So I'll be broadcasting from there and doing shows from there, which will be great. So I need to go back and I need to cut these things in to Tango Shalom. And by the way, Tango Shalom is it's amazing. The first 4 reels are with my colorist, and they're going to the mixers on Friday. And then Tango Shalom is out of my hands for a while, and it's been in my hands for 3 years. It's been crazy. These last 2 weeks have been nuts, but I'm going to go cut these new transcoded shots in right now and work hard. So thanks all for being here. And I'll be 9 o'clock tomorrow morning back with John Campia. So as all of you know, every person you meet has a story to tell you haven't heard. All you have to do is listen. And with that, I am out of here. Thank you very much for being here. And as always, have a better day. See you guys tomorrow.